Hey guys, welcome in this week to Cooking with Joe. Today I'm really excited. We're doing the gumbo. So obviously this was pre-recorded if you guys remember me talking about that. I've got a prior engagement on Friday, so I'm going to be doing some prep work on Thursday. And I just wouldn't have time. So I wanted to go ahead and do this. And this is one of the best things that we can do is tape it on Saturday and then I'll post it on Thursday, which is tonight for you guys. You can find it on Facebook. I'm going to upload the video if I can on Facebook. If I can't do that, then I'll send out a note and let everybody know to come over to Come Cook with Joe on YouTube, because I know I can get it on that one. So nonetheless, I'm really excited. Like I said, I've got some things ready, so I'm going to walk you around the kitchen and show you. So we've got our Holy Trinity, which is going to be our white onion, our green bell pepper, and then our celery stalks. I've got my spring onions or green onions here, which we're going to chop up and plate. I've got 3 paper plates. Each one, that's for the Holy Trinity. I'm going to do the spring onions there. And then the last one is for the Andouille sausage, which we're going to cut up. I've got my frying pan for my chicken. I've got my little garbage bag for my leftovers for my vegetables. And then over here, I've already got the spices laid out. So tonight we're going to be needing garlic powder, paprika, thyme, cayenne, Cajun, onion, and parsley. We'll have a little bit of salt and pepper in that, and also some bay leaves. So I've got me a spatula set out so I can work with the chicken. I've got my gumbo stock pot ready to roll with my big gumbo spoon. I've got my chicken broth ready to go. Again, it's 32 ounces. So we've got that at Sam's as bulk. And then we have a cup of oil and a cup of flour. And then I've got my ladle set over on the side for plating purposes. So first thing we need to do is, if you haven't already, go ahead and get your shrimp ready. So you're going to have to devein and peel your shrimp. If you've already bought pre-peeled and deveined shrimp, you're good. I usually buy mine that's deveined but still has the shell on, so I just sort of have to thaw them out and take the shells off. So go ahead and get that ready and put that back in the refrigerator. We'll be going to deal with that in a little bit. We won't be cutting those up. Those will just be going in whole into the pot. And then the chicken and the andouille sausage and the fish, we're going to cut up here in a moment also. So we'll see that in a minute. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to go ahead and start with our green pepper. And I know that last time we spoke, I was talking about using a 3-lobe green pepper, but unfortunately I couldn't find any at the store. So this is what we had to go with. So we're going to go ahead and cut those off. Put that right there in our trash bag. And then we're going to dice the green pepper up. So I hope you guys have gotten a chance to taste gumbo before. If you haven't, I think you'll really enjoy it. Some people like their gumbo with a little bit of heat, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Some people like it more, more mild. And so once we get to the cayenne and the Cajun seasoning, we will adjust that accordingly. So if you want to, if you like it, really spicy, then you can always add either more to it, or you can add something like Emeril's essence, which can be found at Kroger's. That's a real good seasoning base. You can add some habanero pepper, which would really spice it up. So I hope everyone's had a good week. Sort of strange not having Kim in with me. She helped me get the shot right. I hope the shot's working for us. I'm sure it is, because she got on a stepping stool behind me in order to check out the shot, and it turned out to be okay, I think. So again, I need to tell you guys to get ready for the long haul, because the roux itself, and I've told you guys this before, I know, but the roux itself is going to take roughly about 45 minutes to cook. So we're going to do that low and slow, and it just takes a while for that flour to basically burn on itself. That's what you're doing with the flour. So whenever you do that, it's going to become almost nutty flavor. It's really good. It's really got a good smell to it as you're cooking it. And so we'll experience that here in just a few minutes. The reason why it's important to get all your vegetables and stuff cut up first is because we're going to get all this cut up, and then we're going to go ahead and get our chicken cooked off, because we can't allow that to simmer in the sauce. It won't ever get done. So we're going to fry that off in a frying pan. That's why I've got my frying pan here. But the vegetables stop the cooking process. So once you have the roux going, we'll throw the Holy Trinity in on it, and that'll basically stop it from cooking. And that's what we want at that point in time. So we'll discuss that here in just a few minutes. I know the last few times we've diced up onions, I sort of diced all the way through. I can show you another way to do this. So what you're going to do is you're going to come to the top of the onion and go down into the onion. All right, we're going to be making those cuts, but we aren't going to go all the way through. So you notice the back is still not cut. Now we're going to flip the onion around this way, and we're going to make the same cuts going down through the onion. Now we're going to take it and go down this way. And see, we have our dices. Then we can turn our onion, make these slits or cuts, and then come back this way. And now we have our onion diced. So from now on in the future, if you guys want to dice your onion one way or the other, that's absolutely fine, of course. So that way it's just a little bit quicker. And since the roux is going to take so long to cook, I'm going to try to save as much time for you guys as possible. So hopefully you guys can get out and get your ingredients and you're cooking right along with me. If not, obviously you can always come in and cook a different day. So like I said, you need to make sure you've got plenty of time. So, okay, so we've got the onion chopped up. I'm getting the celery cleaned up here real fast. And I'm just going to go down the middle. And I know I said one stalk. So guys, I'm going to be cooking off the cuff tonight. So you'll find out whenever I start adding my spices. I like a little bit more spice to mine, which is fine. I know people want to make sure that they know how much spice to put in if you aren't comfortable with adding too much or too little. So I'm going to be giving you those measurements as I go. But again, I'm just going to eyeball it as I go. So just bear that in mind as we go through this tonight. It gives a little bit more personality to your dish. And you can experiment. You can go up with one seasoning and draw back on another seasoning and see if it tastes better. Hopefully you don't just use this one time and you're done with it. But yeah, it's really neat, and that's what makes cooking so much fun, is because you can try different things and see how they go. All right, now for my spring onions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, obviously take the tips off, and then we're just going to dice those up. Now these won't go in with the Holy Trinity. These will actually go into the dish a little bit later because we don't want to overcook these at that point. So we're just going to bring these in once I can get them all in line. They're playing hardball. All right. And then just come in and dice these all the way through. Now, I hope you guys were able to go back and look. I added the rice a little bit late. I forgot it whenever I previously posted it on Facebook. And then I went back in and edited it. I didn't know if anybody had seen it before I had done that. So I just want to make sure that you've been able to get your rice. If not, once you cut all this up, you can either you can do one of two things. You can either run back out to the store and grab it or save it for a different day. Put over here. Okay, now we've got our vegetables cut up. So what we need to do next is work on our andouille sausage, our chicken, and our fish, our white fish. So we'll go over here to the fridge, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to grab the white fish, and I have a fillet here of mahi-mahi. So I'm just going to take this out. The whitefish, again, of course, you guys obviously saw the recipe, but any whitefish can do. Flounder can be good. You can do a catfish. That can be good. Mahi-mahi works. It's going to be a little bit more sweeter. And contrast the different flavors that we're going to be putting in here tonight. So I'm going to put this back in the pan, because again, we aren't going to need that quite just yet. I'm going to stick that back in. Oh, I'm going to wash my hands real fast. And we will be sticking that back in the refrigerator. Okay. Next, I will grab the andouille sausage. And this one is Johnsonville. We just picked that up at Kroger's. Easy to find. Let me give my cutting board and knife a real quick wash. Cross contact can be a bad thing. It's whenever you contaminate one thing with another. So we definitely don't want the, if there's anything on the fish, and the andouille sausage is not going to be cooked as long as the fish. So we want to make sure that everything stays safe for us. So we're going to do that. I'm going to wash my knife real fast. Now, again, tonight, if you guys have any questions, even though I'm not with you, I will be checking on Facebook and also Come Cook with Joe. I'll be checking on those areas. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and put them in the comment section, and I'll respond to them. That's what I'm hoping to do. Like I said, I know it's a little bit different because we aren't live, but I can go back and answer you guys' questions. So, woo, Riley almost got a big treat. Okay, andouille sausage. Obviously a little bit spicy, which is kind of cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, and we can do this one of two ways. We can either just slice it, right? So I'll do it both ways. So we can slice it. Riley's sitting there staring at me because he knows if we have regular summer sausage that he gets a treat, but this he can't have because it's got different spices in it. We're going to throw this right over here on the paper plate, and that's just the slices, obviously. Another thing that we can do is come in here and quarter it. So we'll make this cut first, roll it over, make this cut, and then come back and make your slices. Makes a little bit smaller pieces. So again, it's just a matter of preference. So either way that you guys want to do it, it will be fine. So as we see, walk around here. As we see, we've got different sizes. We've got the longer pieces, the sliced, and then we have the quartered. So like I said, either way will be fine. Matter of preference on how big you want your pieces to be in your gumbo. For the sake of time, I'm just going to come back in here and just slice the rest of these. Oops. All right. Now we've got that done. So next thing's next. I'm going to go over here and wash my hands real fast. Now I'll grab the chicken out of the refrigerator, and we will get that diced up. Now again, on the recipe, I said you guys could use anything you wanted, whether it be breast, chicken thighs, tenders, it doesn't matter. It's all fine. So I just had a breast that was out in the fridge, and so I brought it in because I figured that would be just easy enough to do. So I'll get rid of this bag into my trash bag. It's got a little bit of skin on it, so I need to cut that off. just like that. Now we've got a breast. Oops, big piece fell on that one. All right. So I know I said and called for a pound of chicken. It doesn't matter which way it goes, either it be a breast, tenderloin, or thighs. But just make sure that you get in here and dice this up. So we made our first cut. Now we'll come back on this side. Okay, now with this, what I'm going to do, after I wash my hands, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go ahead and throw it straight in the skillet and get that on the stove. We want that to go ahead and cook. Like I said, we can't put that just straight in the soup or the stock because it won't cook all the way through for us and it'll make everybody sick. So what we want to do now is we'll take a little bit of oil. And this is going to be a little bit different oil than what we're going to use in the actual roux. So I'm just going to take a little bit of oil because this is a stainless steel pot and I don't want that to stick. So I'll throw that in here. Take my chicken right in there on top of it. We are done with the cutting board. We're done with the knife, so we'll just leave those right there. Clean our workspace up a pinch. Get rid of our trash. Okay. Now, come over here and basically we're just going to fry this chicken off. So medium-high heat, a little bit of oil, like I said, because I didn't want it to stick too bad. I know it's not actually looks like a pound, but again, it's just me and him eating, so. So there that is. All right. It's important that we go ahead and grab our Holy Trinity and set it over here next to our stovetop. Because again, once we get to the point that we want to stop our roux from cooking, once we get to a golden roll, then we want to go ahead and add the Holy Trinity. The coldness from the vegetables will stop it from cooking. So that's what we're looking for in that aspect. And then we'll start adding stuff and building layers upon that roux whenever that happens. So, but we have to have that ready to go whenever we get to that point. So the Holy Trinity obviously is a little bit different than a mirepoix. Mirepoix in French would substitute out the green pepper and put in carrots. So a mirepoix is carrots, celery, and onion. And the Holy Trinity is green bell pepper, onion, and celery. So just a little bit different. Chicken's starting to sizzle and fry. So once we get done with this, we are going to take it off the heat. Obviously, I'll probably put it on a paper plate, and then I'm going to stick that in the refrigerator. That way it'll be ready for us. Now the shrimp we aren't going to cook off. The shrimp we're actually going to go and actually put those in the stock once we get to that point in time. So because the shrimp doesn't take long to cook. Now I will give you some advice on this though. If you guys are able to and get this started early. So if you're cooking with me now, that's great. I appreciate that. But if you aren't, you're going to do it at a different time. Do this early in the morning and get it on the burner. And then once you get done, let it just cook as long as it can. Even if you guys started cooking this at, say, 9 in the morning and got everything done and it on the stove, if you turn that down to a nice simmer and just let it sit, those flavors are going to marry and it's going to really intensify the flavor and you guys are really going to enjoy it at that point in time. You guys are going to enjoy it tonight anyways, but I'm just saying that's really good if you can let it sit. The longer it sits, the more it becomes flavorful, and it's really good. So tonight, probably the minimum, if you're cooking with me, that we're going to let it base is probably about 20 minutes. And that's just to make sure that the sausage and the shrimp get cooked through. All right. Now again, this has no seasoning on it. It was just basically the chicken, a little bit of oil. Didn't want it to stick on you. So I'm going to take that out, and I'm not going to drain the oil off into my sink. Freaked Jeff out last time. Jeff, it wasn't that much oil. I was sort of stuck in a rock and a hard place, so I had to do something. Usually, I have my canister sitting over there. I usually put my oil in when I'm done cooking, or my grease. All right, so I'm sticking that in the fridge. So now we've got our shrimp. We've got everything else set. So now we're ready to start on our roux. So this is going to be a good time. So let's get at it. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and take our oil, and we're going to put our oil into our big stock gumbo pot, just like that. And then I'm going to come in here with my flour and throw the flour right on top. There we are. Now, again, when we start this process, you cannot walk away. You cannot stop stirring, because you're going to burn your flour, and that's going to really, really be bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this on. I'm going to turn it on to burner. Turn it on roughly about medium right now, and we're going to start stirring. So now what's going to happen is that that's going to basically get pulled in. Matter of fact, you know what? This burner's still hot. I'm going to move me over. All right. So we're going to stir in that flour into the oil. And what's going to happen is that you guys are going to see little clumps, and as it stirs and gets hot, it's going to fall apart, and it's going to turn into liquid. And then once that happens, then you're going to keep watching it, because then it's going to turn back almost white. I mean, this is a white roux right now. This is what we're looking at. So the next phase that we're going to go through after this is a caramel or blonde roux. And then after that, you have a chocolate roux. So depending on the depth of the flavor that you like, the darker it gets, the stronger it becomes. So you need to toy around with that and figure out what works best for you and your palate. We don't want it to get too dark, because a lot of people don't like a dark chocolate roux. Most people like a caramel blonde. So that's where we're going to go with this. So again, right now we're looking at a white roux. The time, as I see right now, is 12:46 on my stove. I actually made this at work one time with my guys. They loved it. They were shocked. But they was like, I didn't realize it took so long to make a roux. I'm like, yeah, you have to constantly stir it and be with it and babysit it, or else it's going to burn on you. So we don't want that heat to get too high either. So I can smell the heat actually starting to hit the flour, though, because I can actually start smelling the roux. As you see, it's starting to get a little bit thicker. Yeah, it's starting to smell good. It's almost like baking, but not. Okay, so I'm getting a little bit of bubble, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit, because I don't want this to get too hot too fast. Like I said, we need low and slow. Okay, now you're seeing a true white roux. The color is going back, and some of the oil is being mixed in with the flour. So now it's more of a white roux, which is a true white roux, as we're seeing it here. And it's mostly the bubbles that's coming to the surface. It's making that color. It's capturing the flour as it's going through. But that oil, obviously, right now, just like we were talking about a reduction, and that's what's happening in this right now. So we're basically burning the flour, which is really nice. Like I said, it turns into like a nutty flavor. So it really adds a different characteristic and a depth to your gumbo. So this is the base. This is the heart of the gumbo. Like I said, there's this way to do it, which is a traditional way to make your roux. Another thing that you can do is put a cup of flour on a baking sheet. Pat that out to about 3/4 of an inch deep, and then stick it in an oven at 425, and let that cook for 45 minutes. And keep your eye on it, because it's going to turn brown just like it is in this pot. So once it turns to the color of roux that you want, then go ahead and pull it. Make sure that you take it off the pan immediately, because it's going to continue to cook. So take it off and put it into a different bowl, and then cover it up. And then whenever you get ready to do your gumbo, once you get to this point and you're ready to add it, what you're going to do is you're going to take a wire wisp, and you're going to add the cup of of chicken broth. You wouldn't be adding oil into this, okay? You'd add chicken broth. So you'd add a cup of chicken broth, and then you'd wire those together and whisk it together, and you're gonna have your roux. And so then you can start at this point and then start adding all your ingredients from there. So just a little different way to do it, especially if you don't have time to stand over a stove and stir it constantly so it burns on you. So you got to make sure that you are watching your liquid roux and make sure that it doesn't burn. So the scent of the flour is intensifying. I can really smell that flour cooking now, and it smells really good. So I have some friends that have shellfish allergies. And one of the things, if you want to do a gumbo, obviously you can add whatever ingredients you want with the protein side of it. So you can leave the shrimp out and add other things. So, you know, if you do suffer from a shellfish allergy, you can, like I said, always just leave that out and still enjoy a good flavor for gumbo. If that's the case, what I'd probably do is add a couple different whitefish instead of just one. So I was toying with the notion, I didn't know if I wanted to continue cooking this and break off and then come back whenever it was about ready. But I think I'll just keep it on. That way you guys that are cooking your roux for your first time you don't get concerned or anxious that you might be ruining it. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit more again. The white fish, again, will cook inside of this, so we won't have to pre-cook that before we throw it in. The temperature of the stock will actually cook the fish once it gets inside. And since we chunk those up anyways, it'll be a little bit easier for that fish to cook for us. So now on the bottom of this, I'm starting to see that the flour is starting to actually turn for me, which is getting a little bit thicker. So again, if you see too much of that too fast, you need to turn your heat down. You don't want to burn your roux. So again, though, expect that because as you cook it, that's what's going to change the color for us. And it's going to go from the white, and we're starting to see the caramel, which this is going a little bit quicker than I thought, which is great. You might not want to try to cook it that hot though, because again, you don't want to burn the base. If you burn the bottom layer of that, it's going to taste really bad. So we have made it to a caramel stage. So we're going to cook a little bit longer than this, obviously, because we want a little bit darker. Again, just remember not to get your heat too high, because I don't want you to burn it and make it bad. But as you're seeing, I'm constantly stirring and moving it around so it doesn't stick on the bottom and burn. It's one thing that's really good about this gumbo spoon is because you can just get in there and keep it in the thick of it, and it's going to be good for you. So this is actually going a lot quicker than what it normally does, I guess because I had my heat up a little bit higher than normal, but I've been babysitting it. So just remember that what you're trying to do is get that to a nice temperature. You don't want to cook it too fast, and you have to make sure that you're with it because we are getting ready to surpass the caramel right now and go into almost a light chocolate. At that point in time, I think I'm going to stop cooking it. So this has actually only been about 10 minutes. Like I said, this is amazing. This is usually not happening right now, but you're seeing how thick it's getting. You're seeing the different color change, and right now we're almost at the point where I'm going to add my vegetables. The Holy Trinity, because I don't want that to get too dark, and right now we're at a dark caramel, a light chocolate phase. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my vegetables, my Holy Trinity. Ah, shoot. I'm going to get those stirred in, and that has stopped cooking my roux now. Now you can really start smelling that goodness. It sort of comes up and kisses you in the nose, and it is amazing. So again, with your roux, however you like it, whether you like it darker or lighter, that's going to be a matter of preference. So now that I've got this in, I'm letting it cook for a few minutes. Let that marry in with the roux. I'll be able to turn that off here in just a second. That steam and smoke gets really going. So I'm going to go ahead and add my chicken broth and stir that in. And again, that's even further going to stop cooking the roux. Make sure I'm going to get that all mixed in. Now, you want to make sure that you're mixing that up so it gets smooth. So you see how it was clumpy at the beginning, now it's smooth for me. Turn that blower back off. All right, friends, if you made it this far, we have gotten our stock ready, which is exciting. So now we can start building on these layers. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bay leaves. I know I said 2, but I'm going to take 3 bay leaves, okay, and I'm going to throw those in, all right? Get those incorporated. That way as we cook, we're going to pull those out later. But right now I want those to start cooking and extracting all that flavor into our stock. All right. Now the next thing I can do, I can get rid of this paper plate. Next thing I can do is I can come over here and I can grab my chicken. I'm going to take my chicken, I'm going to add the chicken back in. Get rid of the plate. Sure smells good. All right. 12:56 on the stove now. Like I said, that only actually took about 10 minutes, which is sort of crazy. I've never seen a roux develop that quick before. So if it doesn't develop that quick for you guys, please don't be concerned. Like I said, you guys saw the color it was supposed to be. Right now I'm at a rich caramel, a light chocolate color, and so that's what we're looking for. So again, this is going to be a really good gumbo, I think. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start adding our spices on top of that. So I'm going to add a little bit. The spices it calls for is a half teaspoon of salt and a half teaspoon of pepper. So again, for everyone that likes to measure, go ahead and grab your measuring devices and do what you need to do. We're going to go ahead and grab a tablespoon of garlic. I know everybody's like, that's not more than a tablespoon. Yeah. We're going to add a teaspoon of paprika. We're going to add a tablespoon of thyme. Now, this is where it's going to get personal. If you guys like heat, and if you guys like a gumbo with a little bit of a heat to it, then you're going to add a little bit more than an 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. So it just, again, you're looking at the heat that you like. I try to keep mine dialed back a little bit, even though Kim's doing a lot better with heat stuff. But nevertheless, I don't want to burn my mouth off. So I'd much rather compliment my palate than not. So I like a little bit more heat. Cajun seasoning calls for a half teaspoon. So we're going to come in and put in about a half teaspoon of Cajun seasoning. That's going to be a really good flavor for you in this. Then we're looking at 1 tablespoon of onion powder. So we'll throw that right in there. After that, we're going to add in our 1 tablespoon of parsley. Dry parsley, throw that right on top. And there we have it. So we're just going to mix this all in. I'm going to turn that heat back up just a pinch. I had turned it down because I was cooking my roux too quickly. Thank you. Just came in to get a drink and she said it smelled good. Definitely does after that all gets in there. Okay. Now, since we've got that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab my shrimp and my fish. And I'll go ahead and throw those in. So here goes the mahi-mahi fish, which is our white fish we used. Get that thrown in there. And then my prepared shrimp, which was deveined and deshelled, tails off. I'll take that and I'll throw those right in there. Just like that. Get that all stirred up. All right. Get rid of this and clean up our workstation a pinch. Since I'm here, I'll go ahead and grab the Andouille Sausage and I will grab our spring onions and bring them back over. We've got a little bit of a boil on this, so it's a nice little boil. We're going to make sure that the shrimp turn pink. That's what we're going to be looking for. And again, though, if you guys can build it up to this point and let it simmer for any amount of time, it's going to be really, really good for you. So tonight, like I said, we're going to let it cook and base here for about 20 minutes so the shrimp can get cooked off. Now, the andouille sausage is already cooked, so we aren't going to throw those in there just quite yet because all we're trying to do is just get them back into the flavor. So we're going to leave those off for just a few minutes. Along with the spring onions, we'll leave those out as well until we get almost ready to plate this up. So we're going to let that cook. I'm going to start putting my stuff away, the seasonings we used. So that way, again, we can have a clean workstation. Cajun and cayenne goes in the back. I will grab the thyme and the paprika. Parsley and the onion. Oops. Now, a couple different paprikas you can use. Obviously, we used just plain paprika tonight. This is the garlic we'll put back. But that being, oops, I got the onion and garlic mixed up. But that being said, you could always go out and find you some smoked paprika. So the smoked paprika is going to give you a little bit more hint of obviously a smokiness, right? And so that makes it really good too. So the Emeril's Essence, this is what the bottle looks like. And again, that's a really good all-purpose seasoning blend. It's got a little bit of a kick to it, but not too much. And of course, Emeril is from that area of gumbo and gumbo making. So that's definitely a good spice to have on hand if you're making a gumbo. So we're going to keep this stirred up. The shrimp are starting to turn for me, starting to become pink. So that's nice. It's got a really good thickness to it. If it gets too thick, you guys can always add a little bit of water. Again, make sure that your heat's not up too high because you don't want that to thicken too much. And if you have not microwavable rice, you could probably go ahead and get that started too on another burner on your stove. So as we see the shrimp's curling and turning pink, which is good. We've got that chicken going too. So the shrimp's looking really good. So about this point in time, what I think I'm going to do is go ahead and add in my andouille sausage. So we'll grab that plate and throw it on in here. Now we've got a gumbo. Sort of nice with those two different sizes too, because remember we quartered some and we sliced some. So if you just went with one or the other, that's perfectly fine, like I said. But this is sort of gives another dimension too, which is kind of cool. So one thing I forgot to mention, and again, this just goes back to heat source and what you guys like and don't like. If you don't like a lot of heat, then don't worry about this. But one thing you can do in order to hit this is go ahead and grab you some Tabasco sauce. And if you hit that a couple times with a good couple of hits of Tabasco sauce, that'll liven it up a little bit more too. So I'm going to go ahead and hit it a couple times with some Tabasco sauce. Again, I forgot to put that on there. I might get back on there and add that in so you guys can remember to pick that up if you don't have any. And if you don't want to, then you don't have to worry about it. All right, my shrimp is almost all the way cooked. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with my green spring onions. I'm going to go ahead and throw those in. Get that a nice stir. Now, again, you guys don't have to use that much as a whole bunch of spring onions. As you saw, I did the entire bunch, but you guys can sort of eyeball that and figure out what you like and what you don't like. All right, now as I start to see these leaves come across, these bay leaves, I'm going to go ahead and start pulling those out. Be careful though, because they couldn't be hot. I've got one more down there. That's why it's important to remember how many you have. You don't want someone to get that in their mouth and swallow it and get choked on it. So that's why we cook with them and then we remove them from the sauce and stock once we get almost ready to be done. Hey, Kim, can you help me? I'm going to have her, like I said, we do the cauliflower rice. So since we're almost done with this, I'm going to have her go ahead and throw that into the microwave for us. Honey, can you cook my rice? Thank you. Okay, that last bay leaf is being stubborn. Oh, I see it. It's here on the side of the gumbo pot. That's why I didn't find it. Okay, at this point in time, since we're going to cook that rice off, I'm going to go ahead and turn this heat off. Now you guys see how thick we've got our gumbo, which is really nice. So I'm going to use a plate to plate this so you guys can see the different colors and different attributes to it. You can serve it in a bowl. That's usually how we serve it here, is just in a bowl. But again, I want to really plate this out so you guys can see all the different colors and different levels to this, which is really neat. This recipe is really fun. Easy, it takes a lot of ingredients, but again, it's not too bad. Once you master your roux, which as you see, shouldn't be very fearful or something that's going to scare you because it's easy. You just have to make sure that you stir it and you don't burn it. And it obviously does differently. Like I said, I've never seen a roux develop that quick. It was 10 minutes and we was moving on our steps. So it was very unique tonight, which is great for me because that way I don't have to keep you guys here for 45 minutes before we actually start building our gumbo. Nevertheless, that being said, again, if it takes you more than 10 minutes, that's okay. It should have not taken 10 minutes. It should have taken a lot longer. So again, the key there is low and slow. Make sure that you have your heat turned on low. That way you have less chance of burning it. And always make sure that your spoon keeps moving. Don't ever let your spoon sit still or else you have a good chance of burning your bottom layer of your flour and then it's going to ruin the taste of your roux. And ultimately ruin the taste of your gumbo. All right. I can go ahead and get rid of these and put my Tabasco sauce back. We got our plates here, we got our ladle to make it work for us. We got about 2 minutes left on that microwave for that cauliflower rice. Shrimp looks amazing. I know they're done because they're curled and pink. And whenever we're talking about shrimp, remember if you're cooking shrimp, C means cooked, O means overcooked. So if your shrimp are in the shape of a C, it means that they're cooked. If they're in a circle, it means that you've overcooked your shrimp. Making sure I turned off the stovetop, because for some reason I'm starting to become like my grandmother and forgetting to turn the stove off. All right. A minute left. So I hope you guys had a good time with this tonight. I hope you guys are able to try it. I know Brandy said that she's never had gumbo before, and then to actually make it is something that's, like I said, it's an art and it's really fun to do. So I hope you guys were able to watch this tonight and post your comments or questions for me, and I will go back and look at those. Another thing I wanted to tell you guys also, as I'm thinking about it now, as your roux cooks or as your gumbo cooks, a lot of times that oil will actually start coming up to the top and sitting on the top. So ever so often you might have to, if you're going to let it cook for a long time, you're going to have to come in and take your spoon and basically just scrape off the top. And you'll see what I mean, because the oil will start floating and it'll make a skim. And so all you have to do is just come in and take that skim off. And I would definitely do that before you served. So get you a paper plate with a paper towel on it, and then whenever you take that skim off, you can just put that right there on the paper plate and then just throw it away. So that's one of the drawbacks of doing it from scratch like this, a traditional roux, other than putting it in the oven. Because in the oven, again, you don't have any oil. You mix the flour with your with a cup of your chicken stock. So then, of course, you add the rest of your chicken stock of the 32 ounces into your gumbo, whenever I added the chicken stock. So just a little bit different, pros and cons. Okay, so our rice is done. So I'm going to go ahead and open our bag, which is really, really hot. I'm going to put the rice right here on the plate. And again, you guys can use bowls if you want. Like I said, we usually use bowls. Okay, got that rice set. Okay. I'm going to take my ladle. I'm going to get a good helping of gumbo and take it and push it right down the middle, and then just drop it. Oops. And again, good scoop of gumbo. Push down the middle and just drop it. First success was a little bit better. A little bit messy on that one. So, guys, there we have it. Traditional New Orleans style gumbo. A little bit of kick, not too much, but again, you can control that with as much of the cayenne and the Cajun seasoning, and if you have the Tabasco in order to throw it on top, that's going to give it a little bit of heat also. So I'll turn you guys around since you've seen this plated, and I will tell you guys thank you again for coming in and cooking with Joe. The next time we'll be together, I believe, will be the 30th. So the 30th. So again, I think what we'll do on the 30th is probably do those cherry bombs. I think that'd be really fun, and I think you guys would enjoy that. I know a lot of people that eat them really enjoy it. So I'll go ahead and do that with you guys next time on the 30th. So be looking for the ingredients, and until next time, I'll see ya.